Well, hello there. This is a continuation of the series on linear harmonization, playing outside. And I think we went through levels 1 and 2. Level 1 was inherent tonality, where you discovered chords within the chord scale that you can sort of emphasize and sound a little bit out. And then the second level was enhanced tonality, where you inserted passing chords in between the existing chords in the progression to kind of create more forward motion. And then this approach would be going a little bit more outside in what I call expanded tonality. Expanded tonality in that you're expanding your choices of other tonalities that you can superimpose over the basic tonality. In this case, we're just going to be over a B flat minor 7 chord. And we're going to be using the ascending cycle of minor thirds, or the minor third ascending cycle, however you want to configure that title, using minor pentatonic scales. Now keep in mind, this is one of literally thousands of approaches you can use at this point. So this is where it starts getting more chromatic, and as soon as you start going more chromatic, you introduce the chromatic scale. Once you introduce the chromatic scale, you start getting into the whole math behind the chromatic scale, 490 some million different combinations of the chromatic scale, or within the chromatic scale. It becomes vast. So, B flat minor 7. Then the cycle of ascending minor thirds would be B flat minor 7, or in our case, for melodic purposes, B flat minor pentatonic. C sharp minor pentatonic. E minor pentatonic. G minor pentatonic. Then back to B flat. Now, one of the first steps in this process is going to be working out the minor pentatonic scale in those 4 keys in one position. So if we start with the basic box pattern for B flat minor pentatonic, you have and then the nearest C sharp minor pentatonic is right here. The nearest E minor. The nearest G minor. And the nearest B flat. Which brings you up to the next position of B flat from the one you started with. So it kind of has an ascending sort of sound or momentum. And then there's all kinds of exercises you can practice to become familiar with that, to become familiar with connecting all that. And one of the exercises I do, and I haven't practiced it in a little while, so we'll see how it goes. And it's very similar to one of the exercises that I use for learning how to solo through chord changes over Lami's Lament, where you pick out a harmonic rhythm. In this case, I'll just do 6 notes per scale, and you try to maintain an ascending and descending line throughout the whole position, and you change scales whenever you need to change scales. So for B flat minor pentatonic, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then the nearest note of C sharp minor pentatonic is here. You get that far, and then E minor pentatonic, G minor minor pentatonic, B flat. And when I connect scales, I tend to connect to a chord tone of the next scale, which when you're dealing with minor seventh chords, you're either going to connect to the root, the flat third, the fifth, or the flat seventh. So it's connecting to the flat 7 of C sharp minor 7. And see right away, as far as the tonality goes, that's the flat 9 of the B flat tonality. So I mean, like right away, you're going out. I mean, that's as out as you can get. I mean, flat 9 over a chord scale that has a natural 9. So now the last note, the 6th note of C sharp minor pentatonic, is the 5th of E flat. I'm sorry, E minor pentatonic. So I'm just going to skip up to D, go down, and then that is also the 5th of G. So I'm going to skip up to the 7th, and that is also the 5th of B flat. So I'm going to skip up again. So it creates sort of a symmetric pattern. And that's an exercise, and it sounds really kind of cool. Let's see what the exercise sounds like over the backing track. This is Band in a Box real tracks, so it takes a while to generate the backing track. I just need to freeze it. Freeze all tracks. There we go. So there you go, that's one of the exercises, and then you can repeat that exercise from every chord tone in the B flat minor pentatonic scale, ascending and descending, so that gives you a lot of options. So for example, if you descend from the 3rd of B flat minor pentatonic, you might want to know something like that. And then by doing all these different exercises, you become really familiar with how the keys sort of connect together and the sound of it all. And then when you go to improvise, you have that foundation there, and you can have more effective improvisations. So I rarely ever work out specific lines for this. I'm just improvising based on the concept. Although after repeated improvisations, I started gravitating towards one particular pattern, which I'll probably use in this improvisation. So in this demonstration, I'm going to introduce a tonal phrase in the first 4 bars, and then go through the linear harmonization pattern for the remaining 4 bars to create sort of an inside-outside balance. We'll see how it goes. There you go, and that was all improvisation, just flying by the seat of my pants. Yeah. But there you go. So that is using one of the concepts listed under expanded tonality, where you're taking other tonalities, other keys, and you're superimposing them over the basic key. And that's usually done in some sort of cycle. A very common thing to do is to take major triads through different cycles, like cycle of major thirds, minor thirds, whatever. Even the chromatic scale itself, that starts to sound really, really out. But this particular approach was used a lot, or is used a lot by Jimmy Herring. I'm pretty sure he uses it exactly like that. I think one of the demonstrations he had in a Guitar Player magazine was in the key of A minor, going up through A, C, E flat, F sharp. Something like that. So, y'all practice that, and always keep in mind that you want to practice this in all keys so it's readily available to you at all times. Also, it's important to know where it is appropriate. It is most appropriate in a highly chromatic environment. It certainly wouldn't work over just a vamp on a D major 7th chord. That sounds kind of bizarre, but in the backing track I had the piano programmed to go up and down a half step, so it created that chromatic environment. And also work that out in all positions all over the fretboard. And then all the positions that you work out will be applicable to all keys because you'll have the same shapes up and down the fretboard. So y'all enjoy that. Post any results that you come up with, and certainly post any questions you might have about this approach, or comment on other approaches of this type. Y'all have a good one.